The Mysterious Case of Professor Mahogany, by Rarest of All. Notes of Professor Mahogany, found 1/11/2013 inside Mount Moon. 1810-1985. The equipment is packed and my team is more motivated than ever. Today we leave Azuria City and head straight to Mount Moon in search of the humble bug Pokémon Paris, who has been discovered by traveling trainers around this area. I am going to study them in their natural habitat and take notes, so the National Pokémon Encyclopedia will hold up to the new species that had been found and named in the last years. I am so excited. Wish us luck. 1910-1985. We arrived and set up our camp near the cave's entrance. There has been an accident. One of my assistants attempted to move a rock to make room for his tent and was attacked by a wild Ekans. He has been bitten and has to see the doctor. Nurse Joy is on her way. What a bad start. 2010-1985. My assistant's status remains unchanged. Nurse Joy has not arrived yet, but I didn't expect her so quickly since this place is anything but easy to reach. The camp and equipment are ready and the cave awaits us. 2110-1985. Joy finally arrived at the camp and is now looking after our wounded, so the rest of us can continue the research. We are one man shorter, of course, but I see no need to break up. We've entered the first few chambers of the cave and found dung. Could be left by Zubats as well as Paris, but I try to remain optimistic. The tests will bring clarity. 2210-1985. The excrement we collected are indeed of Pokémon that fed on plant life. That's the proof I hoped for. Tomorrow we will have to travel much deeper and hopefully see wild Paris. We brought night vision goggles since it's safe to assume that these species can't handle direct sunlight very well and would be obviously disturbed by lamps or flashlights. 2310-1985. I've taken the first pictures. It was amazing. I have never been so pleased to be a scientist. Paris are shy orange bug Pokémon of 30 centimeters height. Just like the witnesses told us, but the specimen we observed seemed to carry skin parasites. There's a chance that phenomena is normal, and that they have some kind of symbiotic relationship with those mushroom-like things on their backs. More research is required. My assistant feels better, but has to rest a while longer. Joy leaves us tomorrow and has voluntarily agreed to take some of our samples back to Azuria City, so they'll reach the lab as early as possible. I have to send her a bunch of flowers when I am back. 2410-1985. Today we crawled into a very narrow tunnel that we had overlooked before and found some more Paris. Like I pointed out in my previous entry, the mushrooms indeed appeared to be symbiosis. Not only does every specimen carry them, but we also discovered that they come in handy for defensive purposes. I accidentally trapped a Paris between walls and a box of equipment. It got scared and shook itself, releasing a cloud of orange spores from its mushrooms. My skin itches terribly, but now I know for sure these Pokémon are indeed symbiotic life forms and not infected by parasites. 2510-1985. We glued a tracking device on one of the larger Paris. Tomorrow we might be able to tell if they happen to have some form of organization, a nest or anything similar to that. I scratched a sample off the plastic box which had been exposed to the spore cloud. The species of mushroom must be categorized and named as well. I am probably a little bit arrogant right now, but I hope they get named after me. My water is running out a little faster than I had planned. I have to ask the lab for some supplies, or I might run short in a week. 2610-1985. The Paris have gotten used to our presence, especially to me. I'm still not allowed to touch them. I tried, but they pinched me and blew another cloud of spores in my face. 2710-1985. The tracking device has showed us that Paris leave the cave at night to other entrances and feed on different kinds of roots outside, like we assumed from their dung. I've also been able to find eggs in the humid rock crevice. The eggs seem to be covered in spores as well, which leads me to the conclusion that Paris grow together with their symbiosis from birth on. Isn't that amazing? I didn't harm the eggs or their mother, of course. I will avoid this spot for a while so she doesn't get too stressed. Speaking of stress, I could finish these entries much faster if it wasn't for my stupid assistants interrupting my concentration all the time. 2810-1985. Today I didn't work much. I'm not very comfortable in my tent anymore. There must be a wild sparrow outside. I can't see it, but its call just drives me mad. Stupid bird. 29/10/1985. I can't sleep anymore. I might as well get up a little earlier and arrange the photos we took. We've discovered some footprints that differ from the ones Paris left behind, but they're larger and the Pokémon don't seem to avoid it. Could it be a higher evolution of the species? It would be absolutely wonderful. The lab has sent more water, so that problem solved itself. 30/10/1985. We waited till sundown today and followed the Paris with the tracking device into a field of tall grass. It digs in the ground near trees and searches for root. I must admit that, out of scientific curiosity of course, I tried one as well and they are indeed surprisingly tasty. I offered one to my assistant, but he has immediately spit it out. I guess tastes are arguable. 1/11/1985. We haven't noticed much social interaction between the Paris yet. Maybe their behavior isn't complex enough to require much communication between them, but I can't be sure. There are still ways to share information by smell or similar chemical signals we can't measure with our current equipment. Maybe they even talk on a frequency we can't hear. 2/11/1985. I work at night now. I can't stand the heat of the day anymore, and I found it kind of relaxing to do my work at the night hours, when all of the others are asleep and can't bother me anymore. I went a few times alone to the cave and lured the Paris with some of their favorite roots. I think that I found my new favorite Pokémon. They're amazing. 3/11/1985. I moved my sleeping place into the cave. The air isn't that dry in here, and that wild sparrow can't come in. My assistant tried to convince me to return to the camp, but scared them away. That freaking headache. 4/11/1985. Today I spotted that mysterious Pokémon that must have left deeper footprints on the ground in the tunnel. It's impressive at over 1 meter high. The mushrooms on his back have grown together into one, covering everything but his legs and pincers. I might be mistaken, but it could be blind. His eyes are white, I can't see a pupils. It's not moving very much, kind of strange. More research is required. Roots. 5/11/1985. The evolved Paris doesn't seem to shy away from me. I am also able to touch the smaller ones now without provoking an attack. I took measures against the large ones' pincers and legs for safety. It stood perfectly still and patiently waited till I was done with the bug and attempted to go on with the size of the mushroom, but as soon as I touched it, the evolved Paris got aggressive and I had to leave it alone. It must be a sensitive spot to it. 8/11/1985. I did further observations on the large new Pokémon, the inhabitants of the cave together with the other Paris, and witnessed some behavior I simply can't explain. Today, one of his legs fell off. It wasn't bitten or cut off by another Pokémon, it just kind of broke while he was trying to walk. I guess the weight of the giant mushroom on its back finally got too much for his thin bug legs. The evolved Paris didn't seem to notice it. At least, it didn't react to its pain in any way I could notice, but his behavior was significantly changed. It is no longer out for food. Instead, it crawls around the tunnels in search for Paris eggs and covers them in spores. Why? I can't understand. 9/11/1985. I picked up the leg which the bug has lost, but I fear I don't have the proper equipment to find out what it's this weird symptom. I'm just gonna keep it until I feel a little bit dizzy. I'll finish this entry later. 11/11/1985. The large Pokémon, which I still think is an evolved Paris, has died, poor thing. Maybe it was very old. We still have no clue how old this species usually gets. 12/11/1985. Today our search for roots wasn't very successful. Also my head is really starting to hurt. Maybe this place really is too dry. I'm moving deeper into the cave tomorrow. Roots. Must eat. Help me. 14/11/1985. It's no use. Intruders keep coming. We must move the bugs deeper into the cave. They will have to travel a little longer to find food, but my host is the largest of all. It will not fail me. Paris. Roots. Have to collect roots. Paris. 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 That was The Mysterious Case of Professor Mahogany. Final thoughts? A very unique and enjoyable story. Like with the last story by Rarest of All, there are a few typos and grammatical errors due to the author's first language not being English. These errors are currently being fixed, however this version of the story isn't. If you'd like to read the fixed-up version, the link should be in the description. As for my thoughts on the story itself, I think it's a very good one. It's a new story from a perspective you don't often see about a Pokémon you don't often read about, and it takes it in a direction that isn't overplayed. If it has any weakness, it's that it's predictable, but really, that isn't always a major flaw. In fact, if the story is well made enough, it doesn't really matter if you can see where it's going because you'll still enjoy it just as much. All in all, this was a very enjoyable story, and just like last time, leaves me extremely interested in what else Rarest of All will write. That's it for this week's Creepypasta. Tune in again next week at the same time when we tackle yet another video game Creepypasta. If you want to write your own story, help peer edit a story, or even just read the stories early, check out the description where you'll find a link to the Creepypasta section of my forum. You'll also find a link to the playlist of every Creepypasta reading I've done. Remember that if you want your story to be read on the show, you must stay active on your post on the forum as well as read the forum rules. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, sweet dreams.
Officer Airsled on with its certain ilmir schemes will mass sal, yes, and air or slow, generic as of the law.